I'm Sandra, and I'm just the professional your small business was looking for. But you didn't hire me because you didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role, like me.
In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on great candidates like Sandra. Start hiring professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
At Arizona State University, we offer a wide variety of degree programs online to match all kinds of interests and career aspirations. Programs that are taught by the same notable faculty who teach on campus and designed using innovative technology to improve learning outcomes and equip you for post-graduation success. That's why 87% of ASU online graduates indicated they were promoted at work or received an increase in salary after earning their degree. Find your program at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This week is a second look at the first three, sort of, Iron Maiden albums of the early 2000s. Now, I'm doing them out of order, as you'll probably know. I started with Dance of Death. Sorry, I started with Matter of Life or Death last week. I'm doing Dance of Death this week, and we all know that Dance of Death came out in 2003, and Matter of Life or Death came out afterwards, but I did it for a reason, because as I said, if you listen to last week's episode, that album itself was one of those ones that I wasn't overly, I didn't really like that much, and so I wanted to do it first so that I could sort of, I don't know, just to see what would happen, and it was a really big eye opener for me. And so, I thought we'll go and do Dance of Death next, okay? And Dance of Death came out in 2003. It was Iron Maiden's 13th studio album. It's 67 minutes and 57 seconds long. It was produced by Kevin Shirley again. And it's the second album with Bruce and Adrian back in the fold. Now, firstly, let's get the worst bit out of the way, okay? The artwork. Now, obviously, it's not what it's wrapped in, but what's inside. We all know that, right? That's what we will tell ourselves anyway, right? But this one is interesting because if you don't know the artwork, the thumbnail is there on the shows, hopefully on there. If not, go and have a quick look online, or grab your CD or your vinyl out, or your tape out from the cupboard and have a look at it. And it's originally a masterful piece of work, actually. It's got death in the middle, of a really nice, beautiful sort of parquet floor kind of thing. And in the background, all these cowed monks, and death sort of beckoning to you to come and dance. I think that's what he's doing. Sadly, Ron Smallwood, the Iron Maiden manager, said that, look, there's not enough going on so in the album, so they gave the artwork to the then burgeoning and early ironmaiden.com people to do some computer graphic-y kind of stuff, and they basically did these sort of naked body forms, and then they were going to give these forms back over to the artist to finish them, which was originally provided by David Patchett, not Pratchett, that's Patchett. And when they handed it back to him, he took his name off it, basically. And Dickinson later said it's one of the most embarrassing albums covers he's ever done. And to be fair, it is pretty awful. But then the later prints, if you get some of the later issues of the album, they've taken all those stupid So I'm just putting my CD back in. Taking those stupid half-finished computer-generated mannequin type things that even if they had a fully rendered artwork on them, it would have looked terrible. It's too busy. It's too, I don't know, sometimes less is more, right? And now I know that this is a podcast about the musical content, but we also have to look at everything that comes amongst that. And I generally think that this era of Maiden, so this Matter of Life and Death and Final Frontier, are a really weak part of that artwork. And I think when they move away from people like the genius of Mark Wilkinson, when you move away from that, you tend to find that you're trying to find something that will be slightly different but also the same as. And Dave did a brilliant job. I mean, that without those stupid mannequin type covers and that silly white dog or whatever it is in the front there, he did a really, really good job, and it sits beautifully. It's a great Eddie in as Death with the scythe. It's great. But I can see why I took his name off it, because I wouldn't have anything to do with it either. It's pretty bloody awful. It is also an interesting album because it's the first album with a song that's attributed to Nico McBrain, the erstwhile drummer of the band. It's his first ever. He had writing credits before, but this is his first major one. And New Frontier is the name of the song, and we'll get to that and what it's about in a second. And it's also the first ever, and for the last Maiden album, to have a fully acoustic track on the Journeyman at the end. There is vocals and it's just acoustic music. It's not electric driven guitars, although there is a electric version of it on one of the EPs they released afterwards. It's also interesting that the main track on the album, Passchendaele, was written by Adrian Smith, and it's actually a really progressive, we'll get to that, but a progressive kind of music. And Adrian usually writes us more sort of catchy, dare I say, poppier numbers for the album. All right, so quite an interesting mix. It's also, unlike Matter of Life and Death and Final Frontier, it's an analog recording, and I think this is probably why that it's the one of the three that I genuinely listen to the most. I mean, obviously I said it last week, I'll listen to Matter of Life and Death a lot more now, but it's the one that I generally listen to the most. It's the album with the most memorable tracks that they play live still. You go and see Maiden live and they're going to play, you tend to play Wildest Dreams or Dance of Death particularly, because it's a really good piece of Maiden-esque. It's a real typical Maiden song. Also, my favourite Iron Maiden tribute bands, the Australian Iron Maiden cover band, tribute band, sorry, Son, I didn't mean to say cover. They do Dance of Death, and they do it really, really well. Most times that I've seen them, I've seen them a few times now, and it is a really good audience pleaser. It's very much like Blood Brothers and things like that. It's really a real Anthem X sing along, and it's got a really interesting middle eight in it. Anyway, that's for later on. Okay. It had two singles released from it, which is Wildest Dreams and No More Lies. They both did relatively well, but not amazingly well in the charts. They were released, interestingly, still in early 2000s when there wasn't much vinyl being released. They were released on single, a green vinyl single, which I covet. I don't have. Also, they were one of the first Maiden singles to release as a CD single and a DVD, which was really quite future planning for that point of time, because DVDs were just sort of coming in around that 2001, 2002, and so they were doing quite a quite an interesting future design, really. And they put with a DVD, you could put more on it. More you could put on the video. You could put on extra tracks. You could put games on them. A lot of them time bands did that. Itself, if I was gonna have, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I said that Matter of Life and Death is definitely now my favorite one of my favorites of the early 2000 albums. But I'm definitely going to say it for me. It's moved. Dance to Death has moved down one because of Matter of Life and Death. I really, really like. It's funny how your top fives and stuff can be more malleable, can't they? They can move. For me, it goes Brave New World at 1, Matter of Life and Death at 2, Dance to Death at 3, and way at the back there is Final Frontier, which we'll get to next week. It has its pluses. It's not all terrible. In fact, it's okay. But that's a different episode. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I just want to say that while I'm on this subject and while my brain thinks it, I was at a gig on Thursday night. It was meant to be Kirith Ungol, a fantastic, heavy metal band from America, Kirith Ungol, and it was supported by Night Demon, and then local acts Shockwave and Sydney act Bastardizer. Sadly, really sadly, Kirith Ungol couldn't perform because the lead singer got a throat infection of some kind, and so half the audience pissed off, which really annoyed me. I can see why, but also really annoyed me because they missed out on an absolute cracking lineup. Shockwave were fantastic as ever. Bastardizer just are always fantastic. They really are. They played my favorite Whiskey Till Death, which made me smile. And then we had Night Demon, who were absolutely brilliant. I'm going to cover them soon on the show. But they've got power and passion, and they're a free piece, really heavy and funky, really rhythmic. And it was lovely because the lead singer said the Canberra was the deadest audience he'd seen in years, which was hilarious because it was only about 8 of us there. But he pointed at us, my friend and I, at the front. We were headbanging furiously, and he goes, "I don't know these two because I didn't see their faces the whole night." So it made me smile, it made me think, well, we brought some energy to the room at least. So anyway, I don't know why I went on that track, but the reason I was saying was I hope that they get better soon and that they finish the tour strongly, and hopefully when they go on because it's their farewell tour. Sadly, I'm never going to see them now, which is a shame. But those that do get to see them, I hope you have a great time because they're meant to be fantastic live. So anyway, sidetrack back to, I will go back to A Matter of Life and blah 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 blah, Dance to Death. Now, it's relatively quite a thick album. You read tracks for the time it in, so there's quite a lot of tracks here. You've got Wildest Dreams, Rainmaker, No More Lies, Monsignor, Dance of Death, Gates of Tomorrow, New Frontier, Passchendaele, Face in the Sand, Age of Innocence, and Journeyman. And all of them have specific reasons and specific stories. Do you say specific? I can't say it. Stories to them. And like all Maiden albums, you're never going to get an album that just sort of is throwaway. None of their work in all of their albums, and I think I might put my neck on the line here saying this, but I don't think there's an Iron Maiden album out there where they didn't have some kind of deep meaning or historical point or something just to make you just stop and think. Now some people say, well, I don't like my music to do that. I just want to feel the music, bang the head, get the energy out, blow off some steam, and fine, you can still do that with all Maiden music. It's just if you actually stop to listen to see what Bruce is saying and what the boys have written, you will inevitably get more out of it. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I love history, but one of my where I got most of my historical facts from as a kid was watching Monty Python and listening to Iron Maiden. I mean, people say that's a bit, I don't know if that's true or not, but it is for me. I got my passion from history and for philosophy and art and stuff like that from these kind of things. And it will be sad. It's gonna be sad one day when this sort of way of getting some culture in you is gone. That doesn't mean other bands won't do it, because I'm sure they will, but I don't know. There's no one does it quite like them. And the song that's on this album, which I'll talk about, when we get to the other side of the program, which really does sort of epitomize that, is Passchendaele. It really, really does. I don't know. I think that every single Maiden album has one song that makes you stop and think, and this one really does. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. That's the 13th studio album by Iron Maiden, Dance of Death, with one of the worst covers of all time, I think, and of theirs anyway. But an absolute cracker of an album inside it. So let's have a break. Let's get some drinks and snacks and whatever. Fast forward if you want. Hit the fast forward button. Doesn't bother me. And we'll have a listen and chat about the track for track of Dance of Death, the 13th studio album by Iron Maiden. See you on the other side, guys. Bye for now.
Hi, I'm DeLon Grant.
And I'm Francesca Ramsey, and together we host the podcast Let Me Fix It.
Each week we explore something from the past, and then we pitch how to fix it for today.
But forget about the past. Let's talk about the new show of the moment. DeLon, did you get a chance to watch the new Queenie trailer I sent you?
How dare you send me this amazing show that took me back to every messy breakup I've ever had. Thank God I had you through my 20s.
Now, you could not pay me to go back and relive those days, but thankfully, we will be living as Queenie navigates her messy 20s.
The new series Queenie is now streaming on Hulu.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking for professionals on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. That's like looking for your car keys in a fish tank. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So start looking in the right place. With LinkedIn, you can hire professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
There's never been a faster or easier way to start your weight loss journey than with PlushCare. PlushCare accepts most insurance plans and gives you online access to board-certified physicians who can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound for those who qualify. Take charge of your health and speak with a board-certified physician about a weight loss plan that's right for you. Get started today at plushcare.com/weight-loss. That's plushcare.com/weight-loss. plushcare.com/weight-loss.
Welcome back to part 2 of Heavy Metal Tones, where we're talking about the tracks of the 13th studio album by Iron Maiden, Dance of Death. Dance of Death. There seems to be particularly a theme in the last 2 of those albums, Matter of Life and Death and Dance of Death. Quite a mortality story going on when I think about it. Anyway, opens up with the first track is "Wildest Dreams," which was a single. It's a good song to open an album, and to start the album on its way. It's typically Iron Maiden. It's typically Iron Maiden of the time. Maiden to me has very distinctive sound, very distinctive moments in their career. Early new wave of British heavy metal with Diano, and it has that really naivety, that dynamism about it, that sort of punkiness. Even though I know that Steve would cringe at me saying that, but it does. And then you move toward when Bruce comes in, it becomes a much more polished. There's more money. There's more. They're brimming full of energy because they've got a singer with more range, right? So they can push the sound more. Steve can write more intricate pieces of music. The lyrics and conceptual ideas can be pushed a bit more, and then you get you move towards Bruce leaving. You get your real concept album era, first early concept album era with like a real beyond stadium sound with things like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And then obviously Bruce leaves, and you get that era with Blaze Bayley, and that itself, because of Blaze's vocal limitations, like everyone has limitations, but he's not the same singer as Bruce. The sound is ever so slightly different, so that's a different phase. And then Bruce comes back, and he comes back at sort of a point, Brave New World and so on. He comes in and he's bringing back to the band a vocal style that he took to his solo career, I think anyway, and then sort of bringing that to the band itself. And the band was also playing at a time when heavy metal was not very fashionable, and it wasn't something that you really sold millions of records. And so the sound itself, as I said before, I think gets lost slightly. I'm not a massive, and I'll go on record saying this, I'm not a huge fan of the Shirley sound that produced this particular period of Maiden anyway. It has that sort of, it's not consistent for me. It definitely has a audio era. I mean, I can listen to Brave New World, Dance of Death, Matter of Life and Death, and Final Frontier, and I can definitely say this is that period, this is that time. And it's quite flat in some respects. Sometimes it's quite angular. It doesn't have the lovely round warmness that you get from Number of the Beast and Peace of Mind and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son and Power Slave. It doesn't have that. I don't know. It just doesn't have the. I don't know. Say, if I think of music sometimes in shapes, all right, guys, you know that, and I feel that this period is quite sharp and angular and cold in some respects. So this is their period, this is that period, but this is, of the music of this period, this is one of my favorites, because it is quite clean, it's quite dynamic, it's quite interesting, and they do experiment a bit. And Wildest Dreams, it's a good lyric for a single. Now, Maiden have never gone out of their way to make singles. It's really not they're not a singles band as such, right? But it opens with, lyric like, I'm going to organize some changes in my life. I'm going to exorcise the demons of my past. I'm going to take the car and hit the open road. I'm feeling ready to just open up and go. And it's very much, it has, it feels like there's a speed in it. Like it's about opening up, getting on the highway and being someone you wanted to be, not your person you were. And it has that real speed and feel to it. And it does feel, I think when Yannick came in, he added that kind of edginess to the guitar sound. And I think that's what you get with this song. It's a great, it's not very long. I mean, it's 3 minutes 52. So it's typically a typical single length track. You can see why they would open a single with it. And it doesn't hang around. It gets you into it, but it's a nice single. I think Maiden have struggled over the last few years with what singles they put out from their new albums. And I know people like Matt, my good friend Matt. Hi Matt, if you're listening. He struggled with what they release it, and I've had many chats with him about a single is an album. Wait for the album. There's always one track on an album you don't like, and unfortunately, it could be the single they release because they don't need to sell. They don't need to release singles to make lots of money. Maiden not releasing singles because they need to sell the album because they need to make the money. These guys have done it already. They release singles because that's a song they want to go off the album. That's a song they feel that they would like to use as the promotion for the album, first out of the blocks. Whether it's right or wrong, it's a different matter, right? It doesn't matter. It's what they want to do. They have the control. Some say that Ron has the control, but I actually think that Steve does that, and all the boys do. So anyway, great single out of the box. And then we come into Rainmaker. Now, Rainmaker's quite an interesting track because a lot of people, I actually thought it was named after a book that came out at that same period of time, around that time. But an older book, called Rainmaker. But most of us were wrong. It was actually that Yannick, Bruce had said to Yannick that the music sounds in the opening sounds like rain coming down. He'd written this guitar piece and he said it sounds like rain falling. And so when they wrote the song, they called it Rainmaker. I mean, nothing more deeper than that, but it just goes to show you what concepts people can think of a song is about, right? They can sit there and conceptualize and intellectualize as much as you like, and I do it all the time. But it just turns out that Bruce thought that the opening guitar piece sounds like rain coming down. And if you listen to it, it does have a kind of sort of tropical, rainy feel. I love Bruce for saying that because it's something I would never have thought of until you said that to me, and I read that and I thought, well, I'll listen back to that song about 4 times to see if I could hear what he was talking about. And yeah, I get it. I really get it, Brucey. And it's got a really good lyric in it. Like, again, they never let you down lyrically. I don't know any Iron Maiden song that lyrically has ever sounded like it's forced, right? It's just everything they do. I mean, I'm fanboying here, but everything they do lyrically sits beautifully within the stanzas of the music. It really does. When I was wandering in the desert and I was searching for the truth, I heard a choir of angels calling out my name. I had the feeling that my life would never be the same again. I turned my face towards the barren sun. I know of the pain that you feel, the same as me, and I dream of the rain as if it falls upon the leaves. See, to me, it's just, I could go on and on about that lyric, but it feels like to me that it's about someone that, it's a metaphor, isn't it? It's a barren, something barren in their life. It's not, you're not happy, but then they dream of rain, like a bit hot desert in the desert sun to quench their thirst and to grow their food and to give them hope. And I think that's what Rainmaker's about. Again, this is all, my perspective. You might read the lyric and feel, no, Tony, you dickhead, you don't know what you're talking about. But, it goes, you can tell me, start the rain. You can tell me that we all can change. You can tell me that something to wash the tears away. You can tell me we can start the rain. You tell me that we all can change. You tell me that we find someone to wash the tears away, right? So again, it could also be about relationships that have gone barren. And I know that Steve's marriage was a bit rocky around this time, and it could be a lot to do with that. It could be to do with relationships and washing away the past or adding more passion to the barren relationship that's there. I mean, who knows, right? But whatever it does mean, the actual music that sits behind it is really, really one of my favorite pieces. If I took the lyric out of this album, it's just got a real nice dancey light motif to it in a heavy kind of way. Anyway, I just think it's a great piece of music, and it's again, it's 3 minutes 48, so it's not hanging around. So they're not, they, unlike Matter of Life and Death, where every track was a sort of a mammoth marathon journey along. This is sort of, they're cutting it back a little bit more, sparing a little bit more of the era, I think. A little bit more poppy, a little more radio friendly. Not that Maiden never been radio friendly, but you know what I mean. And then we're going to move into No More Lies. This one, okay. Look, this one is, again, I think this is Steve, because it's written by Steve Harris, this one. It's 7 minutes 21. It does feel like someone going through a bit of a mental, emotional problems, emotional breakdown, and it feels that way. I could be wrong. Those Maidenhead fans out there that go, no, that his breakup was a different album. I don't know. It feels like this one is the one where he's starting to feel, it doesn't stand around and try and hide what it's saying. I mean, the chorus is "No more lies, no more lies," and it's got one of Bruce's best vocals on the album. It's a brilliant, the way that he emphasizes those two simple chorus with a real sort of echoey chasm music behind it is so dynamic, so deep, right? Well, the opening lyric says, "There's a darkening sky before me. There's no time to prepare. Salvage a last horizon, but no regrets for me." So, he's just saying that, no more lies, no more regrets. I'm giving up, walking away. It's dark behind me, but there will be a future ahead of me. And it's a pretty dark concept. But then Dance of Death, like Matter of Life and Death, it's not playing around with happy family motifs and jolly hockey sticks and tea parties on the lawn, is it? It's also not. Iron Maiden have never been, or possibly apart from maybe Number of the Beast, they've never really bought into the stereotype of the heavy metal band and the death and demons and beasts and wizards. They just don't buy into that. They are very historically accurate, but that's what makes them different to the rest of that group of bands that came out of that period in history. And then we move on to Monsignor. Now, Monsignor is again, it's one of those fantastic. I hadn't, before this album came out, I hadn't really read much about the Cathars and the Catholics' persecution of the Cathars. The Cathars were a religious sect outside of the Catholic Church that the Catholic Church wanted destroyed because they sort of espoused Christian theories and ideals that were not in line with the Catholic faith. And Monsignor is a castle, if I'm getting this right, on top of a hill, and basically the song is about the siege of the Cathars, the Catholics, to destroy the Cathars, right? Hold on, I'm going to use some real big words here. The Cathars, I've just found some notes I've written down, was a Christian quasi-dualist or pseudo-Gnostic movement that thrived in southern Europe, particularly in northern Italy and southern France between 12th and 14th century. It denounced it was denounced as a heretical sect by the Catholic Church. Its followers was attacked first by I can't even read that word, Albigensian Crusade, and later by the medieval Inquisition, which eradicated the sect by 1350. Many thousands were slaughtered, hanged, or burnt at the stake, sometimes without regard for age or sex. The followers were known as the Cathars. They referred to themselves as good Christians, famously believed that there were not one but two gods, the good God of heaven and the evil God of this age. According to tradition, Cathars believed that the good God was the God of the New Testament and the faith in the creator of the spiritual realm. And many Cathars identified the evil God as Satan. So, I mean, it's, when you look on paper, it's the same as any other Christian religion, but it's pretty horrible. And they discriminated by no one, and in the name of God, sorry, I just looked my book. And in the name of God, they slaughtered, right? And the music itself, I think, 5 minutes 30, written by Yannick Gers, Steve Harris, and Bruce Dickinson. It gives me the hairs on the back. If you read or you go to the YouTube or watch a video about it or read on the Wikipedia page about the attack of the Cathars, when you listen to this song, it does give you that sense of unease. The chorus is brilliant. You know, at the gates and the walls of Monsignor, blood on the stones of the citadel. It's lovely, isn't it? It's really lovely in a dark and way, but great chorus, great chorus. It starts with, I stand alone in this desolate space, in death they are truly alive. Massacred innocents, evil took place, the angels were burning inside. Oh, I don't know what those boys were reading when they wrote this song. But God, you love that. 5 East End boys. Well, most of them are East End boys. From, lower class families, Isle of Dogs, and some from Leytonstone, all these sort of places where at that time in the 60s and the early 70s was a really rough part of London. Education was hard to come by, and these boys are writing songs about the Cathars, right? It blows my mind. Anyway, a great track. I would love to see that live. Sadly, I don't think they're ever going to do it live. Well, not when I've seen them, but hey, they're such a big catalogue. And then we follow with the title track of the album, Dance of Death. Dance of Death is an interesting song because Yannick Gers wrote this one. He wrote the melody, and then Steve came in and wrote the lyrics. It's 8 minutes and 36 long, a typical Steve song. He's a prog head all the way through. And originally, I didn't quite know what this song was about until only of recent, when I started researching that it's actually about the Ingmar Bergman film. And I was quite Seventh Seal. I was quite taken aback by that because I studied Seventh Seal at Art College many years ago as part of my film studies unit, and it's about the scene where Death in the end is walking away. If you don't know the movie, if you've ever, it's about Death playing chess with a soldier, a knight, and it's allegory film. It's a film full of allegory. Anyway, they spoof it in one of the Bill and Ted movies. You probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it explains it a lot in the lyric for this song. It explains the movie really, but it's a really thick lyric. Let me tell you a story to chill you to the bones about a thing that I saw one night wandering in the Everglades. I had one drink, but no more. I was rambling, enjoying the bright moonlight, gazing up at the stars, not aware of the presence so near to me, watching my every move. It's quite an eerie song. It's not about the movie. The movie's name was inspired. Sorry, the song's name was inspired by the scene in the movie, but it's not about the dance. It's not about Seventh Seal, the movie at all. It's just it's a very good live song. It's, as I said, Aces High do it really, really well, and it has got a lot of. It feels almost jig-like. It has a rhythm that feels like you want to dance to it. The guitar in it particularly is really catching and captivating. It tells you a story about. It sounds like a guy running away from a demon in the Everglades. That's what it comes to me. Again, I could be wrong. I'm not reading. I read into the lyric what I want to read into it. What you read into it is different, right? And whatever Steve's thought is might be different as well. As I dance with the dead, my free spirit was laughing and howling down below. My undead body just danced in the circle of death. Again, I ran like hell, faster than the wind, but behind I did not glance. One thing I did not dare was to look just straight ahead. I just looked straight ahead. So it could also be about it's running away from fear, running away from your immortality or mortality. Again, it feels like this whole album has a feel of mortality to it. It really does, about the fragility of mortality. You say that with too many beers under your belt. Anyway, it's a good title track. It's a good it's a good live show. Good live one. It's one of those ones that if you ever want to make a sort of like a best of from each album, this one has got to be on there because it's fun. It's fun in a dark kind of way. And then we get Gates of Tomorrow. Now, Gates of Tomorrow is a shorter song again. It's only 5 minutes 12. Hey, shorter song at 5 minutes 12. It has a really... When I said that Bruce's vocals on... what I say, I was saying I thought his best vocals were on... I'll go back where I was. No More Lies. I actually think the Gates of Tomorrow could sort of equal that slightly. Written by Yannick Gers, Steve Harris, and Bruce Dickinson. This has got a really good sing-along. Like No More Lies is a really good sing-along. This is a good live sing-along. You can really open your lungs to this one. It's got a really science fiction-y feel to it. Feels like it could be on Final Frontier almost, actually. The lyric is, weaving a thread round your heart and your soul, deceiving your eyes and delaying your goal. Ships in the night, when they pass out of sight, deliver the cargo of early delights. To the woman and children, the souls of the dead, I've opened their book and no mercy is shed. Again, it could be some kind of book that Steve has been reading, or Bruce, or Yannick. It could be, something like what am I thinking of? H.P. Lovecraft or something. I don't know. But either way, it feels again a bit like a song of abandonment, a little bit sadness. This album does have an overlying sadness to it. It's not by no means is it an upbeat and fun album. That doesn't mean it's a good album. It just doesn't mean it's one of their best of the era. In fact, it is the best of their era. But it's not, along with Matter of Life and Death now. But it's certainly it certainly has that sort of, it has a bit more oomph to it than latter albums that came afterwards. Anyway, and then we go to New Frontier. Now, New Frontier is Nico McBrain's song. Now, Nico McBrain is as you may or may not know, a born-again Christian. All right? Sometimes I wish there was a few more born-again lions, but we won't go into that one. Now, he's a born-again Christian. Good luck to him. His choice. His life, direction, and whatever he wants to do with it. And the song itself is basically about... now, I did write this down. I was quite impressed by what this is about. Hang on. Give me a second. I will find it. Well, I'm going to pause a moment. I'm going to find my notes. Also, by the way, guys, I made an absolute boob. The second single off the album is Rainmaker. What did I say? Wildest Dreams. What did I say? Oh, my God. I think I said No More Lies, didn't I? It's Rainmaker that was the second single. Anyway, my credibility is crashed around my ears. I just sometimes can't read my own bloody handwriting. Anyway, apologize. New Frontier, written by Ricky McBrain, born-again Christian, blah, 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 blah. He's basically about human cloning. And he's against human cloning because, of course, being a man of faith and a man of God, he doesn't like the idea that we take it and God's, control away, and man is doing God's work, according to Nico. There's a very telling lyric here. It says, bleeding you dry from the start, the sum of my parts, to give it away, new life in a day, some new Frankenstein, damned for all time. So, he's saying that we can make these artificial bodies, we can clone these humans, but they won't have a soul. That's basically what he's saying. It's actually a really good piece of music. I wouldn't say it's my favourite track on the album. It's not because Nico wrote it. It's not because he's born-again Christian. It's not because it's preaching. It's just because I don't actually like the piece of music. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's right. Nothing spectacular. I enjoy it though. I mean, it's got a really good... typically with all Maiden stuff, you're not going to go wrong with the music. I mean, I could describe the music as much as I want, but with Maiden, it's not worth it. You know what you're going to get with Maiden music. Let's leave it there. We know it's going to be great production. We know it's going to be really good bass. It's going to be great guitar solos. It's going to be great drumming. The vocals are going to be beautifully mixed. I mean, there's more can I say? I mean, I'd rather more talk about what the songs on the album, the ideas behind them, really, than talk about describing the music, because it's Maiden. It's so easy to describe because it's so fucking good. Anyway, we then move on from that particular music to what I consider one of their greatest pieces of songs of all. It sits up here. This is Passchendaele. This sits along with Rime of the Ancient Mariner, When the Wind Blows, Empire of the Clouds, Alexander the Great, The Legacy. It sits up there with these just awe-inspiring, epic pieces of music that take you on a journey from beginning to end, and you just don't want it to finish. Passchendaele was written, as I said before at the beginning of the show, written by Adrian. Now, Adrian, he doesn't normally, as I said, he normally writes the quick sort of like poppier, jauntier songs. But this one here is just something very special. He uses a technique which they don't use in Maiden very often, and that's tapping. So that's those that are new to this genre or listening to this show for the first time, or don't know much about heavy metal. Tapping is when you're using your picking hand, and instead of using a pick, you're hitting the string on the neck, one or two frets away from your fingers, your fretting hand, and you're tapping on and off, pulling down, and it creates a kind of an interesting interesting sort of rhythmic sound. Eddie Van Halen did it a lot, obviously, but Steve Hackett invented it, and Eddie Van Halen took it to the next level. And Passchendaele. Those that don't know what Passchendaele is, if you're young or you're not interested in history and you're not sure, and you're listening to this album, go, what's Passchendaele? Passchendaele was the third Battle of Ypres, from July to November in 1917. In the First World War, one of the most violent and bloody battles of the war. Not as bad as the Somme. The Germans lost 217,000 people, and the British 300,000. Now the British, that combined Canadians. It was the largest British army offensive, but that British army combined had combination of the Kiwis, the New Zealanders, the Australians, the South Africans, the Indians, the Newfoundlands, and the Caribbean. So a large percentage. I mean, Australia alone lost 38,000 men in that particular short period of time. It was a horrendous battle because the amount of artillery used, the shelling was used, and the weather. It was extremely awful. It when it got dry, the Australians went ahead to try and gain more land because they were good at it, but the weather changed and they were just gunned down, bogged down in the rain. If you see any photographs of it, it's pretty horrendous. Considering it's the very last year of the war, coming to the end of the war, now they weren't to know that. Now, if you want to know where it is, it's in Belgium. It's in West Flanders, not Flounders, that's a fish. West Flanders. They were trying to take the ridge around the town, the high ground, and they managed to do it, but they used a lot of lost a lot of life doing so, and it was the worst weather of the whole of the war, I believe. So I've read. So the song is about that. Now, a little side note, that my grandfather was in the First War, but my great-grandfather was also in the First World War. And my great-grandfather was, I believe, at Passchendaele. This is what I've heard. Whether this is, stories that the family tell, I don't know. Either way, he survived. But very few did. If you think about it, it's very difficult to put into mind that combined Allies and Axis power, 317,000 men. 317,000 men. In a population of a world wasn't as big as it is now. 317,000 men. I mean, that's almost the size of the town I live in. That's like every person in this town, bar maybe 50,000 or 60,000, all off dead, or injured, or wounded, or lost. It's quite incredible. It is quite incredible. So, writing a song that tells of that story is not going to be easy, because you could glorify it, which is not to be done. You could demonize the Germans, which you really shouldn't do either. And you could sort of demonize the generals for their incompetence and their unwillingness to bend and sway and just stop. But you don't. What people like Iron Maiden do is they write a song about the poor bastards that had no choice. The poor bastards that ran into the firing and the guns and, the shells and the blood and the body lice and the trench foot and the dysentery and all the horrendous, the gassing attacks and all that shit that went on. The poor bastard with a dog tag on that no one remembers except their family. This is what this song is about. It's beautiful. It is Adrian Smith's best work guitar-wise. I wish he'd write more long-form songs, because he's clearly very gifted at it. It opens with that. You got the tapping going, right? And it says, and then you've got this beautiful refrain from Bruce. And in a foreign field he lay, lonely soldier, unknown grave. On his dying words he prays, tell the world of Passchendaele. Relive all that he has been through, last communion of his soul. Rust your bullets and your tears, and with his tears, rust your bullets with his tears, and tell him about his years. So he's saying, it's like, I'm dying. Just stop the firing, but remember me. And that is basically what that song is all the way through is about. I could go on all the lyric, but I'm not going to do it, because I want you to listen to it. And if it doesn't make the hair stand up the back of your neck, then I don't know what does. I listen to it every year on Anzac Day, which is in Australia, is the commemorative day where we commemorate in April the Anzac, the Australian and New Zealand combined forces that lost all their lives in Gallipoli and Passchendaele and the Somme and everywhere, right? And it's not just the beat. It's not just the first one. Well, we commemorate and think of all soldiers that have fallen in the stupid act of war. And they do it so well in this song. And as I said, it's up there with the greatest Iron Maiden songs of them all. And I think it's one of the ones that really brings to me a sadness. I don't listen to this song and feel full of the joy of life. Let's just say that. But sometimes you need the darkness, don't you? Sometimes you need the sour to cut through the sweet. You need the bitter to balance the sour, and so on. And then we have Face in the Sand, written by Steve Harris, Dickinson, and Smith. At 6 minutes 31. And this is about the paparazzi and the way that we watched the Gulf War on TV. It's about the war being, because the Gulf War was the first major televised war, and it's about us watching 24/7. Because I remember as a kid, when the first Gulf War, teenager, I remember it being on the TV. My dad sitting in front of the TV watching it almost all day, just watching the planes take off, the airstrikes. It was like, it was like infomercial for war lovers. It was bloody weird. Remember Channel 4 in the UK, and I'm sure I'm correct. Channel 4 did it like almost 24 hours a day. It was just crazy. And that's what this is about, this song. Everybody's waiting for something to happen. Everybody's waiting for something to see. Lunatics waiting for bigger disasters. Everyone's waiting for news on TV. It's a real, it's got a real acerbic attack to Bruce's voice in this song. It really tells that they passionately feel about this ideal. This is the second. I think this is the second Iraq-Iran war, whatever, because it wasn't the first one, but it doesn't matter. Either way, it's about war being watched as a means of entertainment. People say they're not watching it to be entertained by it, but they are being entertained by it. It's that murkiness, the darkness to us, the dark side of us that we all have, and it just can the end be at hand? Is the face in the sand future memory of our tragedy? It's just a face in the sand, so we're watching it, right? Anyway, brilliant follow-up to Passchendaele, because it's not as heart-wrenching as Passchendaele, but it's really sharp and witty and acerbic, and I love it. And then we end the album. We don't need the album. We get the next one of Age of Innocence. Now, this is another relatively long song of 6 minutes and 10, written by Murray and Harris. I think it's a slightly the weak. I think I'm going to change my mind. I think this is lyrically, it's beautiful. It's got a good lyric to it. Musically, it's again, it's Maiden. I don't know what else I can say about Maiden and its music. I think everything has already been said, really. This one is quite an interesting lyric, okay? Because I think this is the boys, the men, the guys, what you will, whatever, are talking about the loss of innocence. Remember, I said this album's quite dark. It's about death and about relationship issues. And I think this is also coming across in this song here. I can't be compromising in my thoughts no more. I can't prevent the times my anger fills my heart. I can't sympathize with a new lost cause. I feel I've lost my patience with the world and all the politicians and their hollow promises and all the lies, deceit and shame that goes with it. The working hand pays everything for their mistakes, and this life too, if there was to be a war. See, I think it follows on from the whole Gulf War thing. It's about why didn't politics. It's a great end to the sort of trilogy of 3 songs in this album. Face in the Sand, Passchendaele, and Age of Innocence, because it's all about. If you look at it on another conceptual idea, it's about a war in general. It's more of a war, in fact, than matter of life and death on the next album. It followed on, but I think this is here really does. I think it's a trivium of 3 songs, all connected with that, about watching war, the stupidity of war, and the politicians and the lies behind why we create and go to war. And I think that is. It's a fantastic. I think Age of Innocence probably could have played after Passchendaele, because it would have told that story maybe a bit more fluidly, and then we could have modernized it with Face in the Sand, and then we finish with the very last and very only up to this point acoustic track, Journeyman. It's a beautiful piece of acoustic music. It's Iron Maiden. They could bang a tin bean can and make an amazing tune out of it. It would make no difference for me. But it comes down to the production. It comes down to the feeling, the passion, the power of the band. And Journeyman, now, for you that don't know or are not sure, a journeyman was someone who was very good at their trade. It was when you had guilds and you had you'd go and become like a plumber or carpenter or like my grandfather was a cobbler, a shoemaker, and his family had been shoemakers for a very long time, 200 plus years. And my grandfather was considered a journeyman because he was at that level where he could take his skills anywhere, hence the term journeyman. He was very good at what he did. And I think, I don't know whether this track is about that, but it's just what genuine means to me. The lyric says here, from the red sky of the east to the sunset of the west, we have cheated death and he has cheated us. But that was just a dream, and this was what it means. We are sleeping and we will dream forevermore. Again, just the opening lyric there says that we've died. It's the end. We're journeying on to the next realm. You know, you probably died on the battlefield, if anything. You know, you could add this into those three, but I still think that it's close to it. In your life, you may choose desolation, and the shadows you build with your hands. If you turn the light that's burning in the night, then your journeyman's day has begun. Yeah, I generally think it's about what happens after death, or the transition to death. And it's got a really nice chorus in it. I mean, it's the shortest song. It's only, short. It's 7 minutes, 6 seconds. It's not short. It feels short to me because it's not as powerful as the others, because it's more an acoustic piece. And so it tends to flow quite quickly. And lyrically, it's quite compact. So it's more musical than lyrical. But it's a good way to end the album. I don't know whether I would have moved that somewhere else up there, but it's a nice way to... I mean, apparently Bruce said that the reason they ended on an acoustic set number was that they'd given the listener 60 minutes of power, and they wanted the listeners to ease themselves out of the album, and that's a nice, considerate thought by the band. But, you know, now you come to listen to my show because I don't know if you like the way that I intellectualize songs and the lyrics. I enjoy. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I do get a lot out of. If you feel that there is a different, or know there is a different story to this album, please do come to my Facebook page, private message me. I'd love to know what you think. I'm also on YouTube now, and people tend to leave their comments mainly in the YouTube channel. So if you've got anything to say, please do just leave a comment in YouTube, whether it's positive or negative. Like the way I asked up and forgot the name of the second single. I don't know why. I wrote it down wrong. Guys, I'm only human. Anyway, that was Dance of Death, the crappiest album cover they ever produced, but one of the best of the early 2000s. Next week, we're going to go and look at Final Frontier. Now, I'm going to revisit it. Will I change my mind on it? I don't know. It was the album that I disliked the most. Really, genuinely disliked. I think dislikes the wrong word. I enjoyed it when it came out. It was good to listen to, but I don't remember it. It's not an album that I go back to very often. And, I mean, it was a brilliant tour. I mean, it was a great tour. I mean, little spoiler, I didn't really like the Eddie on that tour. But, hey, we're all of us, there'll be someone out there sitting there that this was their tour. They were 16 and went and saw Maiden doing the Final Frontier tour, and this is when they engaged with the band. And if that's the case, no offense meant. If you love it, you love it. Opinion is opinion. That's the beauty of the world. We all have different opinions. If we all thought the same, it would be really boring, wouldn't it? I couldn't sit here then and waffle on for an hour, could I? Anyway, it has been an hour, so I hope that's covered it. Enjoy your rest of your week. Enjoy listening to Dance of Death again, and hope you're re-listening to Matter of Life and Death. And next week we will be covering the last of the three Turn of the Millennium albums. We're going to talk about Final Frontier. Bye for now.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
The Real Housewives is a guilty pleasure for most, but if you're looking to not feel guilty about that pleasure, tune in to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino, where I break down all the messy moments and behind-the-scenes antics of Bravo's popular franchise. And on Everything Iconic, I also interview celebrity guests like Kelly Ripa, Keke Palmer, Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and more about their guilty pleasures, their past work, and so much more. So if you're pop culture obsessed and find yourself watching way too much reality TV like me, tune into Everything Iconic with Danny Pellegrino, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.